Okay, so it will start now. Hello friends, good morning. I welcome you all in the today's live session. So let's take a recap of what we have seen in the last session. So on Friday, we have seen the wavelength, one of the parameter which is used to measure the cycles or the frequency or the distance that your signal travels. Then we have seen the time and frequency domain representation of sine wave, that is the it is basically a periodic composite signal. Okay, so we know that what is a periodic composite signal. A periodic composite signal is always a combination of more than one sine waves, okay, with a different amplitude, frequency and phase. Then we have seen the baseband transmission channel. So how we send the signal or the sine wave across the baseband transmission channel, and then we have seen that the baseband transmission is basically, it consists of a low pass channel. Again, this low pass channel is further categorized as low pass wide bandwidth channel and low pass narrow bandwidth channel. So baseband transmission, which consists of low pass channel, is the only way which is used to transmit a non-periodic digital signal from sender to receiver. Because we know that the transmission medium that we are using, it does not contains, or it does not have the facility to transmit the digital signal. And then we studied that how this transmission signal, a transmission medium, it contains an infinite bandwidth so as to accommodate a digital signal. So if you want to preserve the exact form of non-periodic digital signal with the vertical segment as the vertical and the horizontal segment as the horizontal, then we need to send the entire spectrum, the continuous range of frequencies between the 0 and the infinity. So this is possible that if we have a dedicated medium with an infinite bandwidth between the sender and receiver, that preserves the exact amplitude of each component of composite signal. Although this may be possible inside a computer, but it is not possible between two devices. So fortunately, the amplitude of the frequencies at the border of the bandwidth, they are very small, and that they can be ignored. So this means that if we have a medium such as the coaxial cable or the fiber optic with a very wide bandwidth, then two stations can be communicated by using the digital signal with very good accuracy. And that we have seen using the baseband low pass transmission, which consists of the dedicated medium, okay, which has the capacity to transmit the digital signal, a non-periodic digital signal, from one end to the other end. Even though it transmits the digital signal from one end to another end, but we have seen that the signal at the receiver's end, it get hampered, it get affected some or the other way, its shape get changed, it get attenuated during the transmission. Then we have seen the low pass channel with the limited bandwidth. So in low pass channel with the limited bandwidth, we approximate the digital signal with an analog signal, and the level of approximation, it depends on the bandwidth available. So low pass channel with the narrow bandwidth is usually not preferable. So what is preferable? The low pass channel with the wide bandwidth. Okay. Then we have seen the rough approximation of the digital signal using the first harmonic. So let me go back to show you that. So this is the figure that we have seen. So this is basically a rough approximation of a digital signal using a first harmonic for the worst case. And here we have seen that how the digital signal, they have been represented using a single harmonic, single analog sine wave harmonics, okay, or the first sine wave harmonic. Okay, well, so to make the shape of the analog signal which looks more like that of the digital signal, we need to add some more harmonics of frequencies. So we why we need to add the more harmonics of this frequency? To increase the bandwidth. Basically what we are doing is we are enhancing our low bandwidth baseband transmission channel to a wide bandwidth low pass transmission channel. So in this first harmonic we are adding the more harmonics of the frequencies in order to increase the bandwidth. So if when you are go to second harmonic, the frequency will be increased by 3n by 2. So where n is the bit rate, okay, so thrice it will be increased. Then in the third harmonic it will be increased by 5n by 2. In the seventh harmonic it will be, in the fourth harmonic it will be increased by 7n by 2, and so on. Well, when we are increasing the harmonics, or when we are adding the more harmonics to the frequencies, how this will take effect with respect to signal, that we have seen. And let me go back. So in this figure, so when we have added the more harmonics to the original frequencies, like here we have added the 3n by 2, then we have seen that how the signal will get changed, how the original analog signal will get changed. So that what we are trying to do with this, we are trying to make our analog signal to more look like a digital signal. That is what the intention behind using the harmonics and adding the more harmonics into a frequency. Then we have seen in the first harmonic, the available bandwidth or the bit rate of a given digital signal is always twice the bandwidth of your baseband transmission channel. So we know that baseband transmission channel, they are usually referred as a low pass channel. So in first harmonic, the bit rate is calculated as the twice of available bandwidth of low pass channel. So if the bandwidth of the low pass channel is, let's say, that 500 hertz, then the bit rate that we will get will be 2 into 500, that is 1000 hertz. So 1000 bits per second. It's not hertz. So bit rate is always calculated as bits per second. Okay, so that's what in first harmonic, always the bit rate will be twice the bandwidth of your transmission channel. So then we have seen this bandwidth requirement, that n, the number of bit rate when it is equal to 1 kilobits per second. Then in the first harmonic we get the bandwidth of our transmission channel, that is low pass channel, will be 500 hertz. In second harmonic, we get the bandwidth of the channel to be 1.5 kilohertz, and in the fifth harmonic, the bandwidth is, we have increased it, we have made it 2.5 kilohertz. How this is achieved? We know that in first harmonic, the formula that we use is n divided by 2. So n is what? N is the total number of bits that we can transmit per second. So n in the first case, it is 1 kbps. So 1 kbps is equivalent to 1000 bits per second. So 1000 divided by 2, what we get is the 500 hertz. And same way, the formula for the second harmonic is 3n divided by 2. So 3 into 1000 divided by 2, so 1500 bits per second, which is equivalent to 1.5 kilohertz. And the same way, 5n divided by 2, that means 5000 divided by 2, what we get is 2500, and that is equivalent to 2.5 kilohertz. And the second row, which tells you the equivalent bandwidth for the bit rate 10 kilobits per second. The third row, it indicates the amount of bandwidth in the first harmonic, second harmonic, and the third harmonic given the bit rate 100 kilobits per second. So now it's time for some examples. So what is the required bandwidth of a low pass channel if we need to send a 1 Mbps by using the baseband transmission? So the answer, it depends on the accuracy desired. So we actually calculate the amount of bandwidth required in a different harmonic. So if I take the case of first harmonic, then we know that the bit rate will be calculated as n divided by 2. We have given the bit rate as 1 Mbps, that is equivalent to 1000 kbps. So 1000 divided by 2, what we get is 500 kilohertz. In the same way, we can also calculate the bandwidth in the second harmonic, the formula for the second harmonic that we know, it is 3n divided by 2. We know the value of n, it is 1000 kilobits per second. So 3000 divided by 2, what we get is 1500 kbps, which is equivalent to 1.5 megahertz. And the same way for the third harmonic, the formula we know that it is 5n divided by 2. So 5 into 1000 divided by 2, what we get is 2.5 megahertz. So now it's time for question. So we have a low pass channel with a bandwidth of 100 kilohertz. What is the maximum bit rate of this channel for the worst case of, let me go back. So for the worst case of first harmonic. Okay, please calculate it and tell me the answer. We have, I will repeat the question. We have a low pass channel with bandwidth 100 kilohertz. What is the maximum bit rate of this channel? And we have to calculate it for the first harmonic. First harmonic worst case. So what is the answer? So I have to click from this presentation mode to see your answer. You can type your answers in the chat box. Yes. Okay. First answer came. What is next? Krishna, can you tell me how you got this answer 200? So 200 what? Bits per second? Is it 200 bits per second? What else? $200 bits per second or kilobits per second? What? Your answer 200 is right, but what is the unit? You are right. Your answer is right. Whatever formula you have given, you took, that is right actually. But what is the unit? Is it bits per second or kilobits per second? kbps, exactly right. So Saloni is also saying that it is kbps. So right answer is the 200 kbps. So how do we got this answer? So there are two ways to calculate it. So first way is that we know the formula for the first harmonic. So available bandwidth is calculated as, so bandwidth is calculated as n divided by 2. So bandwidth is given to us here in this case 100 kilohertz divided by n divided by 2. Okay, we supposed to calculate the n, that is the bit rate. Okay, so bring this term on this left side to the numerator term. Sorry, yes, numerator. No, denominator. So 100 into 2 is equal to 200 kilohertz. That bit rate we got, but bit rate we usually measure it in a kilobits per second because it is a kilohertz. So its equivalent unit to measure the bit rate will be kilobits per second. So that is the right answer. And the other way is that I have already mentioned you in the beginning of this session that the bandwidth of or the bit rate of a first harmonic low pass channel is always twice of its bandwidth. So we have been given a bandwidth that is 100. So n is equal to 2 into 100, that is 200 kbps. Okay, well, so let's quickly go to the next. So bandwidth of a bandpass channel, we know that this is the lower frequency and this is the higher frequency, and this is what the difference of this lower frequency and higher frequency is nothing but the bandwidth that we get, or the bandwidth that is being allocated for the transmission of data or the signal. So that is what about the baseband. transmission channel. So if the available channel is band pass channel, then we cannot send the digital signal directly to the channel. So we need to convert the digital signal to an analog signal before we transmit the signal. Okay, so this band pass channel is exactly opposite to a baseband transmission channel. We have seen that baseband transmission channel, it has the ability or it has the capacity to transmit the digital signal by allocating a wide bandwidth. But in case of band pass channel, we do not have such luxury. In band pass channel, if you want to send a digital signal across the band pass channel, then first we need to convert the digital signal to an analog signal and then transmit it across the band pass channel. Okay, so this figure will give you the clear idea of how this conversion will take place. Okay, so in this band pass channel, the modulation means changing the digital signal to an analog signal for the transmission. So modulation, it allows us to use a band pass channel with the bandwidth that does not start from 0. So this type of channels, they are more available than the low pass channel. Okay, so we have in band pass channel, we can use a single frequency analog signal, and the amplitude of the carrier has been changed to look like the digital signal. So the result, however, is not a single frequency signal. Okay, so here in this figure you can see that the input digital signal is first converted to a input analog signal by using D2A converter, that is digital to analog converter, and then the analog signal, the converted analog signal, will be sent across the band pass channel, which only carries the analog signal, right? Fine. So then at the receiver's end, what receiver will receive will be the input analog signal, but on destination system we cannot send the analog signal, so we need to convert it again from analog signal to digital signal. So here what we need is the analog to digital converter, which converts the analog signal to digital signal, and then on the destination system the data will be displayed. Okay, so there are a lot of examples that we can talk about this baseband transmission channel. So an example of broadband transmission using the modulation is sending of computer data through the telephone subscriber line. If you remember the dial-up connection which were used in the first decade of this 21st century, around first half of your 21st century, you can say that in 2002 or 3 we used to have the dial-up connections. So your entire internet infrastructure is connected using the telephone subscriber lines. Okay, telephone lines. So these lines are installed many years ago actually, and they are designed to carry the voice signal with the limited bandwidth. Although this channel can be used as a low pass channel, it is normally considered as a band pass channel. So one reason is that the bandwidth is so narrow, and that if we treat the channel as low pass and use it for baseband transmission, then the maximum bit rate can only be up to 8 kilobits per second. So the solution is to consider the channel that is that can carry the analog signal with the high bandwidth, and that is the band pass channel. So to transmit this analog signal across the band pass channel, first the digital signal is converted, the digital data from the computer, it is converted into analog signal, and then this analog signal will be sent across the band pass channel. So we need to install 2 converters to change the digital signal to analog and vice versa at the receiving end. So the converter in this case is called as the modem. So modem, many of you have seen that. So modem is actually a device which converts the digital signal into analog and the analog signal into digital. And the second example of this band pass channel is the digital cellular phone. So for better reception, the digital cellular phone, it converts the analog voice signal to a digital signal. So that is one of the best example. Okay, so here we have finished with the baseband channel and the bandpass channel and the frequency and frequency and time domain representation of sine wave as well as the wavelength. So the next and the last subtopic as a part of this first topic, data and signal, is the transmission impairment. So the signal, when it travels through the transmission media, which are not perfect actually, the imperfection, the reasons for the imperfection is the signal impairment. Okay, so this means that the signal at the beginning of the medium is not same as the signal at the end of the medium. So what is sent from the sender is not what is received by the receiver or the destination. So what are the main reasons of this signal impairment? So there are three basic cause or the three basic reason for the signal impairment. Okay, they are attenuation, distortion, and noise, which have the adverse effect on your signal. So what is being sent will not be received by the destination because of this three cause of signal impairment. So the first, let us start with the first cause, that is the attenuation. So attenuation, it means a loss of energy when a signal or a single or composite, when a simple signal or a composite signal, it travels through a medium, it loses some of its energy in overcoming the resistance of the medium, right? And that is why a wire carrying the electric signal, it gets warm. Okay, even if it is not too much hot after a while. So some of the electrical energy in the signal, it is converted into the heat. So to compensate for the loss, in this figure, you can see that we have used some amplifiers which amplifies the signal. Okay, and this figure, it shows the effect of attenuation or the amplification. So during the transmission of signal from this transmission medium, as we have seen, one of the principle of electric signal is that it emits the heat, it produces the heat during the transmission, and that's the reason some form of signal loss will take place. So to overcome this problem, we use the amplifiers in between sender and receiver to amplify the signal strength. Why? Because due to the loss of signal, or because your signal produces the heat, there is the signal strength will get reduced, the signal strength will become weak. Okay, and that you can see here. Okay, due to this principle of producing or emitting the heat during the transmission from the channel, the signal strength will become weak and weak as the signal travels a distance, some distance or further. Okay, so we are using amplifier in between this 0.1 and 0.3, so which amplifies the signal. So how the signal will be amplified? So amplifier basically adds some more frequency into a original signal to gain or to retain its original frequency or to retain its original strength. Okay, and then after amplifying the original signal by adding the more frequency into original signal, the resultant amplified signal will be sent to the receiver, and then you can see that what we have sent is received at the destination. But this is not the reality. Something is happened during the transmission, and what is happened, that we have amplified the signal because the signal strength became weak towards the end of this destination, and then we have amplified it and so on. So this is what we have called the attenuation. Okay, the signal is attenuated. So attenuation means what? Attenuation means some loss of energy during the travel of signal from the transmission medium. Okay, and why the energy is lost? So your signal is trying to resist with the medium. It want to transmit through the medium, and it is resisting the cables. And because of this resistance, some form of heat is produced, and because of this, your wires, the wire which are carrying this electric signal, they get warm. Okay, because the signal is converted into heat. The energy of the signal is converted into some form of heat. So to compensate this loss of signal or the strength of signal, we are using amplifier. So let us go to the next question. So suppose the signal travels through the transmission medium and its power is reduced to 1/2. This means that the power at the end of signal is 0.5, okay, of the original or the originating point of the signal, that is P1. So P1 is what? Originating point, and P2 is what? The last point of the signal. Okay. So we are considering that suppose a signal travel through a transmission medium and its power is reduced to 1/2, then it is represented as P2 is equal to 0.5 into P1. So now in this case, the attenuation loss of power can be calculated as 10 into bracket 10 log base 10 P2 divided by P1. We know that P2 is represented as 0.5 P1. So P1 get cancelled. So 10 into log base 10, 0.5. So log base 10, 0.5 will give you minus 0.3. So 10 into the minus 0.3 is equal to minus 3 decibel is loss of power that we can calculate it. Okay. So a loss of 3 decibel, and this loss of power is always calculated in decibel. So decibel is the unit to measure the loss of power. Okay. So minus 3 dB is equivalent to losing the 1/2 of the power. So now let's go to the next example. For example, a signal travels through an amplifier and its power is increased by 10 times. This means that P2, the end point of your signal, F1 and F2. Remember, F1 is the originating frequency and F2 is the terminating frequency. Okay, so that we are representing with P1 and P2. So P2 is now here calculated as 10 times of P1. Because we have used the amplifiers in between 2 points, okay, between sender and receiver, which amplified the original signal 10 times of its original power. So original power is P1 and amplifier has increased it by 10 times. So P2 is calculated as 10 into P1. So in this case, amplification can be calculated as 10 log 10 P2 divided by P1. We know that P2 is represented as 10 times P1. P1 gets cancelled. So 10 log base 10, 10, which gives me 10 into 10, that is 10 decibel. So we have actually lost 10 decibel power during the transmission from sender to receiver. That is what it says. Okay. So this is again one of the example that is shown here. So to show that the signal has lost or gained the strength, the engineers, they use the unit of decibel. The decibel is basically the measure of relative strength of two signals or one signal at two different points. Okay, so that is what one of the example that we have seen. Now, one of the reasons that engineers use the decibel to measure the change in the strength of the signal is that the decibel number can be added when we are measuring the several points. So in this figure that you are looking or you are observing, a signal travels from point 1 to point 4. Okay, so the signal is attenuated by the time it reaches to point 2. So between point 2 and 3, the signal is amplified, and again between point 3 and 4, the signal is attenuated. So we can find the resultant decibel value for the signal just by adding the decibel measurement between each set of points. So here you can say that the loss of power between point 1 and point 2 is minus 3. Then we have amplified. So the power that we gain is, so the original signal is 7 times amplified by its original frequency. So 7 dB is the signal strength that we have gained. And again from point 3 to 4, again we have lost the minus 3 dB power. Okay, minus 3 decibel power. So if we take in all, how much power this signal has gained? So this signal has gained 1 decibel of power by amplifying the original signal 7 times of its original frequency. Okay. Yes, any question? Okay, so sometimes the decibel is used to measure the signal power. I know 10 minutes remain, so I'll try to finish it. In this case, it is referred to as the decibel in milliwatts, and it is calculated as decibel milliwatts is equal to 10 to the 10 into log 10 pm. So pm, which represents the power in milliwatts. So we'll take example, calculate the power of signal if it has the loss of decibel in milliwatts as minus 30. So just we have to put this minus 30 value in this figure. So minus 30 is equal to 10 to the power 10 into log 10 pm. So we just bring this term on the left hand side, and minus 30 divided by 10, what we get is minus 3. So log 10 pm is equal to minus 3. So pm will be calculated as 10 to the power minus 3 milliwatt. Same as this example. So you can take this example later on. So now I will go to the distortion, the next parameter that cause the signal impairment. Okay. So distortion means that the signal changes its form or shape. So distortion can occur in a composite signal which is made up of different frequencies.
Hello, sir. Your voice is breaking.
Okay, is it audible now? Is it audible? Is it audible?
No, sir.
Still not audible. What is problem? Let me check it. Let me go back to the Google Meet. My voice is actually. You please tell me whether it is audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we are talking about distortion. So distortion can occur in a composite, in a composite signal which is made up of different frequencies. So each signal component has its own propagation speed through the medium, and therefore its own delay in arriving at the final destination. So these differences in the delay, it may create.
Sir, again it is breaking.
I think you may have problem at your end. Your local internet connectivity is the problem, because I have full bandwidth from my end. Those who are having the audio issue, I will upload the recorded version on the YouTube, don't worry. So these differences in delay, they may create a difference in phase if the delay is not exactly the same as the period of duration. So in other words, the signal components at the receivers have phases which are different from what they had at the sender. So the shape of the composite signal is therefore not the same. What we have sent and what we have received, they are actually different. So this figure, it shows the effect of distortion on the composite signal. So here you can see that the composite signal which is sent from the sender is not actually the same what is received at the destination. Okay, then we'll go to the next parameter of signal impairment, that is noise. So noise is another cause of impairment. So several types of noise are there, such as the thermal noise, which is induced by the thermal noise, induced noise, crosstalk noise, and the impulse noise, which actually corrupts the signal. So thermal noise is what? Thermal noise is the random motion of electrons in a wire, which creates an extra signal not originally sent by the transmitter. Then the induced noise, which comes from the different sources, such as the motors, appliances, and so on. So these devices, they act as a sending antenna, and the transmission medium acts as a receiving antenna. So the crosstalk is the other effect on the wire. Crosstalk is the effect of one wire on the other wire. How? So when one wire acts as a sending antenna and the other as the receiving antenna, then these wires, they may cross each other. Okay, when there is a cross connection between these two wires, then this crosstalk effect will take place, because the noise will be added in both the wires because of this crosstalk. Okay. Then the impulse noise is a spike that comes from the power lines, lightning, and so on. So this figure, it shows the effect of noise on the signal. Okay. Then how do we calculate this signal, the noise in the signal? So we are using the concept called as signal to noise ratio. Okay, so signal to noise ratio is what? So signal to noise ratio, it is defined as the average of signal power divided by average of noise power. Okay, so in SNR, SNR represents what? It represents signal to noise ratio. And how do we calculate the signal to noise ratio? The signal's power, the average signal's power divided by the average noise power. So we need to consider the average signal power and the average noise power, because this may change with the time. So SNR is actually the ratio of what is wanted to what is not wanted. A high SNR, which you can see in this figure, a high SNR means the signal is less corrupted by the noise, whereas a low SNR means the signal is more corrupted by the noise. So that this effect you can observe in this figure. So this is what we have seen, and this signal has high SNR, that is high signal to noise ratio, and that's the reason, because it has the high SNR, the original shape of this digital signal is it is distorted at some extent. Okay, there is less corruption of signal due to the noise. The signal is not more corrupted, whereas the signal on the bottom side, which you can see, it has low SNR, and because it has low SNR, you can see that the signal is more corrupted at the receiver side. So this is one example that I will try to finish in next 2 minutes, and then I know we are at the end, last 4 minutes to go. I will stop then. So this example says that the power of signal is 10 milliwatt and the power of the noise is 1 microwatt. What are the values of SNR and SNR dB? Okay, so SNR dB is actually calculated as SNR into power. Okay, so let's see how do we first calculate the SNR. So SNR, we know that SNR is calculated as average power divided by average noise power. Okay, so average power that is given to us is the 10 milliwatt, right? So we first convert it to the microwatt. So 10 milliwatt is converted as 10 into bracket 10 to the power 3, which gives me 10 to the power 4 microwatt, that is 10,000 microwatt, divided by the power of the noise that is given to us is 1 microwatt, and which gives me the answer 10,000. Okay, so 10,000 divided by 1 will be 10,000. Then we'll calculate the SNR dB as SNR into 10 to the power into the power which is given. Okay, so 10 into log base 10 into the SNR. So this 10,000, it actually represents the SNR. Let me take a pen so that so give me some seconds so that I will go to the slide which I was talking about. So this is distortion and this is noise. So this is high SNR and low SNR. Okay, so now this is SNR. Okay, so SNR is calculated as average power divided by average noise power. That is what we have done here, and SNR what we get is the 10,000. So now SNR dB, it is calculated as 10 log base 10 SNR. So we have already calculated this SNR. We just put the value here in this formula, and what we get is 10 log base 10 into 10 to the power 4. So this 10,000, it is represented as 10 to the power 4. So if you take the 10 to the power 4, what you will get is the 10,000. So now what we get as a part of SNR dB is 40. So the answer is 40 dB. So that's it from my end, the values of SNR and SNRDB for the noiseless channel, they are infinity. Okay, and this is actually not possible. Okay? So we can never achieve this ratio in real life, or it is an ideal value of signal to noise ratio. So high SNR means there is a less corruption of signal, and low SNR means a high corruption of signal. Okay, the signal will be corrupted more at the receiver's end when you have low SNR to your signal. When you have high SNR to your signal, that means there is less corruption of signal at the receiver's end. So thanks all. This is the reference for this presentation. Thank you very much for patiently listening. Now I will take the question from your end and then we'll stop. And in the next lecture, we will start with the new topic, that is this different types of conversion, analog to digital conversion, how it conversion take place, and digital to analog, how it take place. Analog to analog and digital to digital. These are some 4 types of conversions. Digital to analog conversion, analog to digital conversion, digital signal to digital signal conversion, and analog conversion to analog conversion. This is the second type. And in the third topic, we are going to see the data rates, the data rate limits. So what are the different measures of data rates, network performance, and then we'll see the OSI reference model. So is there any difficulty? No? Can I give you one example? Can you solve it in 2 minutes? Or you can solve it after this lecture. I will end this lecture. I'll just give you the question and then you can give me the answer in the next question. No problem. Okay. So you can, I'll just type the question. Just give me a moment. So a signal travels from point A to B. Point A, the signal power is 100 watt, and at point B, the power is 90 watt. What is the attenuation in decibels? That is the question. So you will get the question in this. Got the question? So you can copy this question in your notepad and give me the answer in the next session. I'll give you one more example. So what is the question? The attenuation of signal is minus 10 decibel. What is the final signal power if it has original 5 watt? Okay. So do you have any? Yes, I will share the PPT. Definitely. I will upload this presentation on the Moodle. So from Moodle, after this lecture, at any point of time, you can download this presentation. Don't worry. Thanks a lot for patiently listening, and see you soon in the next live session on Thursday. Good day. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. You can end this meeting now.